quite exciting and interesting. The recent signing of the 2009 agreement with the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, has reignited conversations about the future of higher education in Nigeria. The agreement, which addresses long-standing issues including funding, staff welfare, university autonomy, and revitalization of public universities, is being seen by many as a possible turning point for the sector for years. Unresolved disputes between the government and ASUU have disrupted academic calendars, affecting students, lecturers, and the quality of university education. Stakeholders say the agreement has the potential to stabilize academic calendars and improve the quality of university education. However, they stress that its success will depend entirely on timely implementation, adequate funding, and sustained government commitment. Joining us for this conversation is Vice-Chancellor of Federal University, Oyo-Ekiti, Professor Abayomi Fashina. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Professor. How are you doing? Professor, can you hear me? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll just go straight into the conversation. You know, Professor, since 1988, ASUU has gone on several strikes. Some of those strikes 2 months, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then we saw a strike that even lasted for 8 months, and one even went to 9 months, which is quite worrisome because this worries the education of, our students here in Nigeria. I'll take you back quickly. I'm Ghanaian. I schooled in Ghana, and I had a lot of Nigerian friends. The reason I had Nigerian friends were they told me that we came to Ghana to school because of the strike in Nigeria. As at then, I did not understand what it was till I finally came to Nigeria. But we're now seeing that we're getting leadway with this particular conversation. Professor, I want you to speak to us on what will actually happen if their demands are being met, and what is the way forward with ASUU?
Well, I know that with this new agreement that is signed, I can assure you that government has done excellently well, and you can be sure that there will be no more strike because the welfare of the staff has been taken care of. If you incentivize, when you motivate, you're actually trying to make people work hard. And that's what federal government has done. And I want to give it to Dr. Tunji Alausa, the Minister of Education, who make sure that the deal has been signed, and also give it to ASUU Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the President. For us, it has been a long fight on this issue of staff welfare. And I'm very sure that all the issues have been taken care of, all the issues that are involved, allowances, and if there's no strike, there's regular calendar, the students will enjoy their campuses, the lecturers enjoy their campuses, and then it promotes scholarships. Scholarship in terms of our scholars trying to be at their best. And that is what we want for this country. And I can assure you that this one government has got it right, ASUU has got it right, and both parties must make sure that the agreement is implemented rigidly, faithfully, and I can assure you that Nigeria will make progress.
Okay. Mr. Biodun.
Prof, I'm very pleased that you are actually very optimistic about this agreement. Bearing in mind how long this has been going on, I remembered quite clearly that when I was in university, the issue of university autonomy has always been, at the forefront of ASUU demand. Now, with this agreement, which eventually have resolved decades and decades old problem, which crippled our university, how do you see the other actors within the university system? I'm referring to NASU. Would NASU also create the necessary conducive atmosphere, for learning, or has the federal government, been able to reach an agreement with them? I mean, we all know the Minister for Education has done, he's tried his best. So, but I'm worried about NASU. We have had an agreement with ASUU. What about NASU? Has there been an agreement to ensure that there will be no disruption again in our universities?
I can assure you that federal government is going to also sign an agreement with all the non-teaching staff. I trust Dr. Tunji Alausa. He's a perfect guy. He came from abroad and he knows what it is to have a very quality education. Once they have done that of ASUU, I'm very sure talks is on to also settle SANUM and NASU and NATS and every other unions on campus. Because they know without that, there will be no peace. So for me, I think what they just need to do is to take another step forward to make sure that they also sign agreements. And I think they have started that. I'm very sure in the next few weeks or months to come, you see federal government coming up to sign agreement again with NASU, SANU, NATS on campus. And once that is done, there'll be no problem. It's quite unfortunate that we have come a long way to do this, and that is one thing we should give to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu government. They're taking it one by one, and they're getting it right. For example, the way I said to my unions on campus, I try as much as possible to manage and engage all my unions, including the student union government. In my own university, we have not had crisis for the last 5 years with my student union, and everything I've been doing going on fine, because the way we manage ourselves, we engage ourselves, we discuss, and we are very proactive. Before issues come up, we engage, we talk, and then we have. I can tell you that in my university, we have a regular academic session for the last 5 years, regular academic sessions, and there will be no problem. And that is why our students graduate and went deal. And even for promotions, our promotions are timely. We take care of staff and students' welfare promptly, and that is why. And we have very good, robust human relationship, good human relations with our staff and students. And it has been a beautiful one for us. And that's what Dr. Tunja Asa is doing. And I can tell you that he has got it right this time around.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Professor Fashina. And now, I do want to say we've seen a very embattled and complicated relationship with ASUU and the federal government over the years. ASUU has gone from having, from a historical standpoint, they've had democratic negotiations. Where would you say ASUU's relationship with the federal government stands in this very moment, because of the fact that there's been so much conflict in the past? And with the terms of the agreement, do you think this is really going to go a long way in terms of being enough financial incentive for lecturers to actually stay and be retained in universities and for students to go back without interruption? I saw in the agreement that there's been a 40% salary increase. Do you think this is enough, honestly, based on your knowledge on ground in Nigerian campuses?
No, I think it's not about the salary is okay, fine, but the allowance is also okay. But it's about when you motivate. What the federal government has done is to motivate staff. When you motivate, they will put in their best. I can tell you, for an average researcher, average staff in the university, ASUU member, what we needed from government is what they have done. And I can tell you that even going abroad for our research, getting research grants, scholarship, postdoctorate, there are money coming in. For example, I'll give you this. In my universities, I've motivated my staff. While there was strike on the federal level, what we do, we'll go on teaching online, and we give them data money for data. And then with that we have our regular. So once after this national strike, we come back and we do our exams because we have been lecturing online. Number two is the fact that when staffs are motivated, they give in their best. You see them getting research grant from overseas. I'll give you a good example. In my university, about 3 staff got research grant worth £1 billion. One was on data science and analytics, which has to do with modeling of malaria. Professor Emmanuel Bakari. He's a scholar, and that's enough. If you have about 5 of my Emmanuel Bakari on our campuses, giving about 5 billion naira, which if every university get 10% of it, because we are supposed to get 10% of our administrative from this money, it is a lot. That's about 500 million. So for me, other sources of money coming in will also help to develop the university. So actually, we can get that back into infrastructure. We can get that back into developing staff and students. We can put in so many things on campus so that the government will just come in their own normal way, their own normal subvention. So there are other sources of revenue are coming into the university, and the university will be stable. So we will not rely solely on federal government to supply all the subvention. And that is why. So in other words, you make somebody happy. When you make somebody happy, he puts in his best. He's motivated. When you motivate somebody, it gives it. You are actually telling him, "Oh, look, we can make you better, and then you can make you to reason better because we taking care of your welfare." And that's what federal government is doing. And I pray that the law will sustain it. If they can sustain it, if government sustain it, and that everything will work out fine.
All right, Professor Fashina, it's quite interesting and very lovely to speak with you. It's a rare thing to speak with Vice Chancellor of any university, and it's good to have you on the show. But then, looking at the ASUU federal government agreement, my colleagues have actually asked you very, very interesting question. But I'm concerned about what some stakeholders, have actually said in terms of sustainability, between this agreement and on this agreement, including the Senate Labour Committee and interventions, talking about how to sustain meaningful dialogue between ASUU and federal government, Labour and Senate Committee to mention. So, and how all of these things can help in resetting the system. But from your perspective, you have always engaged your students, the staff members, and etc., in order to forestall challenges and problems. How do you think, what mechanism do you think can be put in place by all the stakeholders to ensure that this agreement does not become another laminated paper on the wall?
Well, the ASUU by style have a monitoring evaluation team. That's why I like ASUU. When ASUU go to engagement with anybody, ASUU will put in place a body, a committee that will monitor and ensure that the system works faithfully and rigidly. And ASUU must have done that. On the part of the federal government, Dr. Tijala must have also done the same thing. They make sure that the team work. There will always be a proactive. There will be a committee to ensure that before anything goes wrong, they're already taking care of what the problems are, and so that they don't wait until when the things are not implemented. And Dr. Tijala must have done that. There's a committee and monitoring committee in place, an evaluation committee in place that will ensure on both parties, that will ensure that things are working, and they will have to talk, and they will be talking, so that they will have to engage, they will have to manage themselves, so that we don't go back to Egypt. What I mean by going back to Egypt, we don't go back to our old style of the system in this country. It is good for everybody to play their own part, And that's what I do in my university. I make sure that I engage all the unions at every time. I'm always very proactive. I don't wait until when I have crisis. In terms of welfare, in terms of promotion, in terms of my students, engaging them. It's a lot, but you have to do that. And then make sure that once you are truthful, you are faithful to the agreement, there will be no crisis. I can tell you that. And that is what is going to happen. And on the part of ASUU, they will ensure that they put in their own role to make sure that it works. And federal government too will also do that to make sure that it works. And once it works, then Nigeria is for a new dawn. I can tell you that. I can give for a free.
Exactly.
There will be no problem with it.
Exactly.
I've done it in my university. It works. I can tell you, like I told you, there's no crisis. I don't have crisis. I don't have student crisis. I don't have management crisis. Because everybody knows that, look, this is what belongs to, this is what you are going to get. And we talk all the time. We engage. And we manage ourselves, and we're getting results.
Excellent. Vice Chancellor, once again, thank you for talking to us. But I want to speak about the quality of education as well, because it's one thing having education, it's one thing also having the quality of education. Oftentimes, we've seen how our students have suffered with this same strike issue. So hearing that ASUU is not going to go on strike again, it's a relief. A lot of people are happy. Students are happy. Parents, most importantly, are very happy. But let's also talk about the quality of education going forward. We've spoken about the 40% increase in, salaries and welfare. You have said it's like a motivation to these people, because when you see these incentives, then you want to do more. But going forward, how is the quality of our education going to be like?
Well, it's going to be better, because every university have their own quality assurance directorate. I have one here, and the quality assurance directorate monitor what happens in all universities. And NUC also make sure, which of course with the regulatory body, ensure when they come, they look at your quality assurance. It's one of those things that is using and actually not only ranking, but also look at it to accredit you. So for that is in place, and I can tell you with what has happened now, our university quality assurance is going to be better. Yeah. I can tell you that it's going to be better. And we have scholars in this country. I can tell you we have scholars. And what government has done is a very excellent, which you give it to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the Minister for Education. Because with this now, the quality assurance systems in the university will be better because of what government has done. So there's no problem. The quality assurance, every university, every tertiary institution have a quality assurance directorate, which monitors what goes on in terms of quality. And I can assure that we're going to get a better quality.
All right, just before my colleague goes, I want to hold you to your word, because a lot of people are watching. Are you assuring us that this strike is not going to happen again? So that when it happens, I can say, I'm going back to bring back our Vice Chancellor to have a conversation with us. But, assure us from 1 to 10%, are we looking at a 9.5% that this strike will not happen again, or we're looking at a 10%? Quickly.
Well, truthfully, I can tell you that if both parties, both the federal government and the university do what is needful, you can be sure of 100%.
Okay.
Give it this way: if I can tell you that ASUU would do his own part, and I know federal government too. Under this Dr. Tijala, I can assure you, because he also passed through the system. Many of us do not know that Dr. Tunji Alasa was a product of the University of Lagos at College of Medicine. So he knows what it is. So he's somebody who's, I would call him an indigenous man who knows what it is. So before anything goes wrong, they are proactive. They will nip it in the bud. So we are also watching. Some of us, we're also watching to make sure that this agreement works. We don't want to go back again. The federal government will look for funds to do this. And I'm sure that one of the things which I love what federal government is the net fund. The net fund thing has been a very good one. Of course, the student will have to look for money. Federal government they are funding education through net fund. So net fund pays school fees of students. So students it's like a scholarship. I tell you this. So the university don't have to wait for students to pay school fees. Money is coming in. In the last few months, my university has been paid several millions of naira by net fund. So that enough has allowed us to run the university eat free without any problem. So I like that. So we should not be patient with this government. They are doing a lot, and I think I'm so happy for it. Considering what has happened in the past.
Yeah, I'm glad you've talked about the issue of sustainable funding of our universities. You've actually mentioned it twice. Now, you have assured us that the NEL Fund, which is the Nigerian Students' Loan, has been helping seriously to fund the university system. And you are assured that with these different streams of income, the universities will be able to cope with the, with all the improvements in conditions of service negotiated and agreed with the federal government. Now, I will want to touch on one aspect and take you back to 1972 when Professor Jubril Aminu was the executive secretary of NUC at that time, and then they wrote a paper titled Educational Imbalance in Nigerian Universities. Are you assured, bear in mind the other issues, the other dimensions that led to the issue of nomadic education, in 1986 and all that, are you assured that even with this level of funding by the federal government, the Students' Loans Board, this new agreement, we will be able to ensure a parity across the board? Because that was what that paper in 1972 tried to address, that there will be a parity in terms of the level of development, research going on in all our universities throughout your country.
I can assure you Nigeria has changed in terms of education. And you know why that is happening? About the fact that we have the stakeholders who are in charge of education knows their audience. They know what they are doing. So they know what to do. And actually, Bola Ahmed Tinubu is supporting them with all the necessary things that are necessary. Two is the fact that universities are also looking out for other sources of funding, especially IGR. I will use my university as a very good example. In the last 5 years, I came in 2021 to Thomas University as a vice chancellor. Within 2021 and 2025, I'll be able to raise my IGR 310%. I tell you this, through other sources of things of income, I've been able to diversify my revenue sources. In other words, I created more programs. Okay, I brought in new programs. I created wealth. I created what I call risk to wealth initiative. I tell me that R stands for resources, S for ideas, S for skill, K for knowledge economy. And in doing that, I created an outreach where we are able to expand our program to other centers and where money was coming in.
That's right.
And so all the money that were coming to the university were used to develop and put infrastructure. As government is doing so part of subvention, we're also getting money from these other sources to put in more infrastructure. In the last 5 years, I've put in 160 projects in my university from IGR. 160 projects. So what it means is that when government is doing its own, the university also, in terms of its own management and council, should also look for other sources of funding so that whether we like it or not, there will be stability. One, there's stability. You don't have to wait all the time for government to do everything, okay? And I can assure there will be parity in terms of what comes in, what goes out. You know what? Once government is doing it, you are also doing your own to make sure that you have resources. You create an enabling environment by creating wealth and bringing more resources to run your university. And once you do that, there will be no problem. And I think that's what we are. There will be stable sessions. Students will make sure that For example, in the last 5 years, my university has become the number 4 most subscribed university in Nigeria. Number 4 out of 303 universities. Why? Because we have a stable calendar, our school fees are affordable, things are working, we have resources, we have scholars, and like I told you, there's good scholarship. Everybody wants to come to FOIE. I tell you this, for us to be number 4. FOIE is one of the 211 universities created by Jonathan. 211 class. And we are number 4 most subscribed university now in Nigeria, out of 303 universities. We are coming after ASUU, Unilag, and Ilorin. And it's interesting. It's interesting to know that.
Professor Fashina.
So for me, so it's about managing the university. The managers of the university to also wake up. Okay, they should wake up and support government. As government subvention is coming,
Indeed, Professor Fashina, this is a very welcome agreement, and you speak of it very glowingly, which is great. But unfortunately, I have some statistics here. Are you with me, Professor Fashina?
I'm with you.
Now we know that UNESCO recommends that a country, on public education, they spend or they allocate between 15 to 20% of their funding on public funding on education, and yet Nigeria has consistently allocated far less than that to the education sector. As at the 2025 fiscal year, Nigeria allocated about 3.52 trillion naira, which is about 7.3% of the allocation of Nigeria's budget to education. That's not nearly enough. Now, while this is welcome, do you think that I wouldn't say we're taking crumbs, but do you think that this is what we should be doing in this day and age? Is this global best practice in regards to our regard for the education sector?
Well, I think the growth is going to be step by step. I will give you a very example in my university. When I started in 2021 as Vice Chancellor, what research was contributing to our total IGR was about 0.7. Today, we're almost hitting 10%. So federal government starting with something, gradually the growth with this incentive, the growth will move. It's a step-by-step thing. You don't get it everything all the time immediately. You move gradually from probably 2% to 5% to 7% and then 10%, and then you go to 15 or 20 something percent. Parliament, Tinubu government is very passionate about education. And of course, they will make sure that the percentage increase will go up. Of course, nobody has ever done it before to increase the salary of lecturers this way, 40%, and also improve their allowances. So now that he has done this, I'm very sure he's going to make sure that he also increase the allocation to education. He will do it. I go and write it down. He's going to do it. And then because by the time people begin to talk, particularly some of us have to discuss with the Minister of Education along the line. We're talking about that. They need to increase allocation to education in the budget. And I'm very sure they will do that.
All right.
So let's give them the opportunity, time. Let's be patient with them to do this over time.
Absolutely. But there's a saying that time is of the essence, in whatever it is that we want to do. But Professor, because of our time, and we just have just a few minutes to go, we're happy to see that you've done so much when it comes to FOIE. You've really, really touched a whole lot of lives and, having conversation with students and all of that. But unfortunately, this is the eve of your exit, from the university, according to, the information we get. That, we want to know some of the things. You've told us some of the things you've done, 160 projects, having good rapprochement, with your, students and all the staff members, etc. Someone is going to take that position when you leave. Could you tell us, reminisce about some of the things you've done and how it feels like being the VC of FOIE and what's next afterwards?
Well, I think it has been God's grace and mercy. It's not been very easy, but God, of course, gave us mercy and His grace. I tell you this: when I started, I set up a 20-point agenda on the vision of what I want to do, and have a strategic direction. And I follow readily, faithfully that 20-point agenda. For example, I wanted to create wealth, increase our IGR, establish a college of medicine, create wealth to agriculture, improve our research grants, scholarship ranking, and faithfully, I've been able to accomplish all this. Why? Because I picked my drivers in the sense that those people that would drive those visions, and they did excellently well. And I monitor them closely. And there's a slogan, people know me on campus: think outside the box. think outside the box. If you think outside the box, ideas will come. And I do this every Monday with my management team to ensure what we have been doing. And in the last 5 years, God has really helped us. Now, for example, we came up with a strategic plan for the next 25 years. As I'm exiting, the 25 years plan will guide the university if it's properly, faithfully, doggedly implemented. We developed and have adopted it in council. And they're going to use that as a roadmap. Incidentally, my successor was my deputy vice chancellor, one of my deputy vice chancellor. He has been a former vice chancellor at Bowen University. He was the VC, former VC of Bowen University, immediate VC of Bowen University, Professor Joshua Gugoli, and he has experience. What he has done in Bowen, under me, has studied me, I've mentored him properly, and I can assure you that he's going to follow in that step. And so all of those things, there's a legacy we have in university, that's what we call Blue Roof Legacy. If you enter 4 years today, every blue roof was done by my administration. And we can count as many projects. Like I told you, we have more than 160 projects on campus in the last 5 years. Why? We were faithful, we were focused, and we know what we are doing. And as he's going to follow that. There's a structure for him on ground, which is going to follow. There's a roadmap for him on ground, which is going to follow. We already produced a 25 years strategic plan, which is also going to follow. So for me, with all those ones, I don't see. For example, I came from 8 faculties in 2021 to now 18 faculties. 18 faculties. You know what? I've added 10 additional faculties, including the College of Medicine, Pharmacy, Law. And I've just also brought law school for accreditation, which was excellent, with a beautiful one. So what we are talking about is about the progress of the university. It's about development. It's about people thinking outside the box to ensure that all things work. And then for sports, it will interest you for sports. Our university is #1 in Ekiti, #2 in Nigeria, #3 in Africa. The last African game, the student was the fastest student in Africa. He won a gold medal. So all this, and we also taking care of staff welfare. We don't joke with our staff welfare.
Amazing. Professor, I'm sure we can go on and on, but I will say a very big congratulations to you. You know, these are fantastic things that you have put in place. You mentioned something quite important. You have a 25 year plan. So even when you're not there anymore, things are going to run smoothly. Well done.
That's right.
Well done. Thank you so much for joining us this morning as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right. Well, still ahead on TVC Breakfast, the nullification of the PDP convention opens a new chapter of uncertainty. What lies ahead for the party?